So we'll look at this one next. Oh, 15 and 14Q. Okay, okay.
Review started.
Do you guys know my double-digit Q methods from the reviews?
No.
It's basically double-digit Q is all about making single-purpose moves every single turn. As long as you make a positive value move every single turn, you are no longer double-digit Q. Even if it's slow, it doesn't matter. As long as it's positive value and not a wasted move. Now, what I mean by positive value is if you have a weak group, you defend it. Make a base, run away. Don't get cut. If you have Sente, you make a big move. Open corners, open sides, largest framework. But if you are alive and you defend your group anyway, then that's wasting moves. So that's what you're going to be looking for. That's the biggest thing you're going to be looking for is wasted moves. Okay. Probably this is technically better shape, I think. When you play this A stun, you usually look at the right side, but I'm still studying A, so I don't know. If it was Sanrensei, this would make a lot of sense. But this is now a move that exists, and I don't quite know all the follow-ups to it yet. But this feels like perfect shape. Everything just has a base, so it feels perfect. So I like it, but it's okay. Joseki is here, so make sure you look up your Josekis. Do you guys know about Josekipedia and stuff?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I always tell my students, especially my WTQ students, I'm like, you're going to have thousands of Josekis to learn. To make it easier on yourself, just study the Josekis that come up in your games. So every time a Joseki comes up in your game, just look it up when you review. Look it up after the game. And that way you learn relevant Josekis, but you don't just not learn them. Right? So I always tell my students, look it up after the game if it's a Joseki you don't know. If you don't, that's the mistake. Because if you mess up a Joseki more than like 2 or 3 times, then that's just lack of studying. Okay, I do like that we're living, but usually we want to live on the highest on the third line if we can over the second line. The difference, what you're thinking of probably is this slide. The difference here is the cutting points. So you always want to be on the third line, and you always want to be jumping ahead as far as you can, right? But you don't want to get cut. So if we go here, we can get cut. But if we go here, then you can see it's actually a little bit tricky, but still technically cuttable. This is also a Joseki, but still technically cuttable. But if we go here, well, now we're pushing from behind. So we usually don't like pushing from behind. So the tactic, it would be to slide. Now, this just kind of forces the sequence, so it's a little bit of an exception, but usually the idea is that I'm sliding because now it's only one cutting point. So a hint for studying Josekis when you're trying to understand them is look for the bases, look for the cutting points, look for Sente, and if you can identify those 3 things about the Joseki, you'll pretty much understand the Joseki. And I would say maybe one more point would be who's surrounding who. So if one person's living, the other one needs to be surrounding. If one person's getting the points, the other one needs to be getting influence. It's a balance. But I would say the keys are cutting points and bases to understand the fundamentals of Josekis. But okay, so that is kind of the idea here. Did I just play the game by accident? That's kind of funny. So here, you would want to extend here. So can we extend here? Technically. No, but never mind. Yeah, you just can't. You will just die. Okay, so yeah, you go here, check the cutting point, boom, boom, and it's okay. So as long as you read the cut, it's okay. And if they go here, you just fix, or like this. So that's the idea of like why the slide is maybe not recommended. There is an exception here, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. That's more on that as you get stronger. So this is kind of the habit I want you to build, though. Because, did you see this move? Is that why you went to the second line?
No, I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. It's fine that you did see this move. What I want you to have is good habits. Good habits will get you stronger. Because you could also think about this as well, but that gets a little bit off topic. The point is, you want to live on the high lines if you can. If you can. And then when you can't and you get punished for it, you learn a new shape, and then next time, maybe just go here or here. Okay, so we play this, okay. Here we want to expand ice space, be as high as possible, and then win honey. And that would be the shape. So here's a little bit slack. I do like you both Tanuki, though, as soon as possible. But probably black Tanuki a little too soon, because surrounding is important. And then maybe white gets Sente. But okay, probably the bigger mistakes are going to be a middle game. Yeah, so here, we don't attack from the second line. We surround on the outside. This is the Joseki, and then black will get Sente here. So you can see we trade territory for influence, and it's an even result. Probably a little bit better for black in the current meta, but not that big of a deal. Both players live. Both players are watching the cutting points, and it's fine. Second line moves are usually not recommended because now black can just run away. And now you can see black has the points, and he breaks out. So that's not an even result anymore. So I would say that this would be the move here. So once you understand like why Joseki moves are Joseki moves, you'll more easily be able to punish mistakes in Josekis. This one is a wasted move. This is one of those wasted moves I talked about. This is just clearly does the job better. If your job is protect eye space, then it's here. If your job is defense, let's ask ourselves, every time you play a move, you want to ask yourself, can I Tanuki? This is a big thing in double digit Q. Can I Tanuki? Every single move, can I Tanuki? If you're not Tanuki into the big move, why? Okay, so let's look at the eye space. Here, 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 here. It's looking alive. It's looking alive. So if I play a big move, here, 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 what about here? Here, 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 cut. That might be difficult to read, though. So you start thinking about, okay, what is the problem? If I have a problem, obviously I want to fix it. But if I don't, I want a Tanuki. That's the mindset you want to have. So here, this is saying I'm fixing a cutting point, but is that actually a cutting point? The answer is no. So if you're fixing the cutting point, that's incorrect. You should Tanuki. But if you see that your eye space is too small, then expand the eye space and get A19 as an eye, or just escape, which is usually bigger. So this would be considered one of those wasted moves. Okay, technically I think you're alive right now. Yeah, you're alive. So you don't have to go again. You want to Tanuki as soon as possible. Soon as possible. Okay, so now we are done with this corner. I think you're playing a Tanuki. So now we're thinking, okay, big move. The left side is clearly bigger. I think if we just draw a line of the framework, I think left side is bigger. But usually it's open corners, open sides. So there's still an open side over here. So probably just approach is the simplest. Usually we would play here though. The idea of this is a star point does not want a double wing, which is a double low wing like this, which is 2 third line extensions. Because if I play the 3-3, one of your third line moves is going to be in a bad spot. So you see now this stone is really flat. You would rather it be on the 4th line because you don't have any territory. You want Moyo. So you'd rather it be on the 4th line. So you usually avoid a double wing like this with the start point. So if you have an extension on one side, make a nice move on the other, is the tactic. And to punish that, you can almost immediately 3-3, and it's good. This is big, so I think white got a little bit here, maybe? Unsure, because it's technically big if you don't punish. Okay, so now we're done with open corners, done with open sides, so now we're looking at big framework. So black made the decision that white's framework was bigger. That's possible, and so you win it. Normally, what I recommend for invading on your opponent's side is approach a 4th line stone or play a 3-3. In this case, you don't have that. 3-3 is probably a ko, so probably I think this is pretty okay. I think this is okay. And now we just run away. I'm expecting like a jump. Perfect. And yeah, run away. This shape, you need this jump first. So the biggest key with defense is don't get cut. Okay, that's the biggest key. So this shape, is it cuttable? I go here. Oops. Yeah. Very cuttable. Very cuttable. So the idea of this shape, you probably saw this in like old Japanese pro games or something, old history books, right? The idea of this shape is when you get this move, you can play here because of this. You also might have seen it if they go on this side and do this, because now the idea is if they do something else, maybe you can go like right here, and there's a Tsuji like this. And if you don't know this Tsuji, it's really hard to play the shape if you don't know this Tsuji. And even then, they can go here, and technically the Tsuji doesn't work. But you have so many squeeze options that it's very easy to make life. And that's the idea of 2. It's a lot of squeeze tactics. But if you don't understand that, this is a very bad shape if you don't understand that principle. Because if you're just thinking, don't get cut, then this is a very cuttable shape, technically. So it's not a good shape for that reason. So probably this is not 15Q, but let's assume for a second that we do know this. This only is possible when the A stone is a single stone, because if I have a stone right here, now those forcing moves, these forcing moves don't exist. So now we have a tiger's mouth, and that's a totally different story. And that is why this one isn't as good, because we technically have this. And yes, some forcing moves still exist, because technically it's still here. But it's a little bit more dangerous. A little bit more dangerous. So probably what I would expect for this level is just run away. Just run away. Just don't die. Don't get cut. For white, I would totally do this at 15Q. There's no way we know this move at 15Q. So, like, just cut. If you're attacking and your opponent lets you cut, though, just cut. Just go see what happens. This is one of the most powerful things that you can do at double digit Q, is cut blindly. It almost always works for you. If you're the attacker, if you have a base on both sides and your opponent is running, and they run with a cuttable shape, even a knight's move, right? They run with a cuttable shape. Attack it. Just cut it. Just cut, and see what happens. It can very easily go in your favor. Your opponent's going to be in so much trouble. But the 2 conditions for that rule is I have a base. I'm not weak. My opponent is weak without a base, and they played a shape that is cuttable. So as white, absolutely look for that. That's kind of the rules for double digit Qs. It just teaches you how to attack. The shape is technically here, but I wouldn't even worry about it. I would be looking at the Mayo, probably, or something. I don't know. I don't know what I'd be doing. It's hard not to see this cut and this peep and surround. I don't know. Too many things I can see that it's hard to turn that off. So here, I don't like this move because we neglected a weak group. So black is weak right here. And white is technically putting you behind enemy lines. So I think run away. Probably here. It's the best to run away. And then I would go and then probably put one more stone. So that way there's no way I can be surrounded. And then I would just Tanuki without worrying. But if you're that close to the line of influence, or to being surrounded, like there's line, you're really easy. It should be very easy to surround you. Then no, I would not Tanuki without eyes. So this is a little bit dangerous. Also, 3-space jump, I wouldn't recommend it till single digit Q. This shape is just very dangerous for double digit Qs. Because if you plop a stone right here, the reading is too difficult. So if you're going to play on the bottom side, 2-space is just safer. Just safe shapes lead to safe results and easy to read results. But still, defense first. So as white, technically you could throw a stone in and then cut. And now black's in a very, very difficult position. So if your opponent has a 3-space, a good tack that you can think about is just throw a stone in. Throw a stone in and then see what happens. You could sacrifice it. You could Tanuki. You could save it, like this, if you want. It's fine. It's free Aji basically. But okay, if you don't understand that, that's fine too. I would just say for black here, just safer. It's better. Definitely a big move. I definitely like this as a big move. But
that's very. I've never heard the If I don't mind me interrupting for a second, I've never heard the throw the stone into the 3-space, for just sort of like experimental Aji. I think that's pretty interesting because I guess it's technically not a Gote move, right?
Technically, yeah. It's more about this shape is too nice for black. It's too strong. So we don't want our opponents to have such strong shape. So even if they live, like even if we do the exact same thing and then they go kill that stone later, the Aji, there's so much Aji, right? There's so much Aji. So we don't want to just let our opponent have a strong position. So even if we plan to sacrifice it, it's still nice to have the Aji. A lot of times we can save it and just attack, right? So especially at double digit Q, like just cutting things off is very powerful. So a lot of times we can even just save it. But yeah, it's the fact of this shape is that this shape right here is really, really strong. And there's almost no Aji, and we hate positions where we don't have Aji to work with. So we almost always throw a stone into 3 space to keep the Aji. And I say almost always. There's always exceptions, but usually the rule of thumb is throw a stone in there, at least, even if you're going to sacrifice it for the Aji. Okay, so we are pincering. So what I'm assuming is black is looking at the center and doesn't recognize that A is a weak group. Because if you recognize that A is a weak group, then technically if you build the center, it's going to be Gote. Because I can just attack you, and your center's gone. Because you can't really build things with weak groups. It's too easy to use the weak groups to destroy it. Okay, so I think that's what black's doing. So white is looking at the attach. I would just 3-3. I know attach is a very common Joseki in modern play, but I usually tell double-digit Qs, avoid this attach at all cost. Just 3-3 or run. Because the follow-ups are always wrong. I don't know why. But I was reviewing so many of my double-digit Q students' games, and I was doing it for several months. I had a lot of people doing reviews. For some reason, every single double-digit Q that played this attachment messed up the Joseki. Like, it wasn't it was one of the two sides. It wasn't always the student who played it, but it was always someone messed it up. Someone played it wrong. So I usually say just 3-3 or jump until single-digit Q. That's technically a safer route to play, because I know we don't want to copy strong moves that might lead to strong follow-ups, because the more difficult the follow-ups, the more likely you are to make a mistake. So I'm a big teacher of make the game simple for yourself while you're the lower level you are, because the simpler it is for you, the harder it is for your opponent. And the Q level is basically who makes the least amount of mistakes while we're learning the basics. So as long as you make the follow-up simple, you won't make as many mistakes, and your opponent will, and you'll win. If the game is simple for you. So that's usually what we're aiming for, is simple follow-ups. Okay, I really hope you read this cutting points. I know you're reading your cutting points. I just know it.
I did not. I did not spend.
This is a habit. I cannot stress how important this habit is to build. If you do not build this habit early on, you will struggle so hard in single-digit Q trying to build this habit. Because if you ignore cutting points and just assume they work, that is going to get you in so much trouble at single-digit Q. So build this habit as early as you can. Always, always, always read your cutting points. And your opponent's cutting points. Always read the cutting points. It is so vital. I cannot stress how important cutting points are at single-digit Q. Here, did you read the cutting points? This one, black can technically cut you, but black is a weak group, so attacking with a weak group is bad, so it's okay. That's why we can use knight's moves to attack, because you can't really get cut if your opponent's too weak to cut you. But at the top right, this might have killed you. Like, imagine you played it wrong like this if you didn't read it right? Your whole corner dies. That's huge, right? So we can't just leave a cutting point without reading it. Because if it worked, our corner could die, and that's not good. So we always check the cutting points before we leave. Now, I'm not telling you to always fix the cutting points. This is another mistake that happens. This is very common. You see a cutting point and you just always fix it. That is a common mistake. Always read the cutting point. If it doesn't work, don't fix it. If it does, fix it. And if you're wrong and you lose the game, then you learn a new shape or pattern. So you learn. And I think that's much more important than always fixing, because that's just wasting moves sometimes. So always, always, always read the cutting point. You know, always reading the cutting points can sometimes lead to this, but then they also sometimes will backfire. So always read the cutting points, and then prioritize defense. We are out of time for this game, so hopefully I was able to give a lot of good tips. Sorry I didn't get as far in this game. I was trying to give as much information as I saw it. So
really
hopefully you
helped,
guys found that helpful.